Seems like every time this year the stories start to come out and they ask, is Nick Saban going to call it quits? Is this the season? And then it's like, well, if he wins the championship, is he going to ride off into the sunset? We're going to talk about that. But first, let me ask you guys not to ride into the sunset, but be part of our channel. This is the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Let's get this thing going. Roll Tide. What do you say, everybody? I'm Mick Gillispie, and welcome to the show. A little weekend action for you. We don't have a football game today, and I'm so used to talking to you guys after the games on Saturday. So I said, why not? Let's just do it. And that's what we're going to do. And I wanted to talk about a topic that is hot this time of year with Alabama back in the college football playoff and all the success that the guys had. Is this the end of Nick Saban? And we wonder, is the end of Nick Saban going to be him winning a championship and leaving? So if Alabama can get by Michigan and then beat the winner of Texas and Washington, would Nick Saban retire, and would he be happy having his career end? Well, I don't think it's that time yet because, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, he's still winning. How many coaches do you remember that go out on top? I mean, I don't know that it's in their blood, right? I mean, to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to win the championship and I'm never going to coach again. Normally there's a decline that goes with it, where you feel like, you're not getting through to the players anymore, or you're not recruiting the players anymore, or you're not winning on the field. The game's changed. How many coaches have you seen where you go from, let's take an example. Everybody's running the wishbone, and then all of a sudden you got spread offenses, and you have to really change the way that you look at the game. I feel like Jimbo Fisher didn't succeed at Texas A&M because he wasn't able to evolve with the game and the times, right? Offense needed a tweaking after, the years that he had success at Florida State, but it never came. And he's out of a job right now because it certainly wasn't recruiting, right? But he may be back. Now you're talking about the Nick Saban, Bear Bryant type of coach, right? I mean, the Mount Rushmore guys. Why'd Bear Bryant leave? He was, moderately successful, not up to his standard at the end, but it was health reasons, right? He didn't live much longer after he finished coaching. So his body probably told him, hey, you know what? It's time to go. You look at Nick Saban, and he doesn't look anything like a guy in his 70s. Matter of fact, he looks like a guy in his 60s. He's still extremely healthy, young. He's still out there in great shape. So that would be, a factor as well. But the bottom line is this, and you're in a business of winning, and Alabama's still winning. They're back in the college football playoff. They're the SEC champs again, which, by the way, for all the talk from Paul Feinbaum and the rest of the heads out there that kind of posed that Nick Saban was done, it's the second SEC championship in 3 years. Yeah, go ahead and put that in your pipe and smoke it, which is so hard to really, fathom because Georgia won the national championship, but Alabama got rings. You win the SEC, that's a big deal, and Nick Saban has made a habit of that, so he's still winning. The other thing, best coaching job of his career this season. All he wants is to take talent and to have those guys buy into the process of being successful. The process works for football. It works for, businesses and corporations in life. And it's all about doing the things that you have to do to prepare yourself every day and not look at the goal at the end. Look at the goal that you have that day. Do the things that you need to do them the right way, and be successful with them. I don't know that it always goes over well with this day and age student athlete, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But this year's team has proven that it takes more than talent. It takes discipline, and it takes buying in. And they're paying attention to what Nick Saban said. Look, think about where they were at the beginning of the season, watching them lose to Texas and having to break in new coordinators on both sides of the ball and a new quarterback and offensive line and, and trying to get this team to play as a unit, and the lack of communication between the defense, the coaches and the players. Figured it all out, got better and better, got trolled by Lane Kiffin, overcame all of it, and had an incredible win at Auburn and then won the SEC, back in the college football playoff, right? It's his best coaching job of the season. The development of Jalen Milroe, him believing in Milroe and the rest of this team when everyone was writing him off in the national media. And now the same people are saying, hey, this is the best coaching job of his career. And the reason why, yeah, it's the best coaching job of his career. He still got it. And I think that's a big deal. You know, sometimes you don't have it anymore. And I think that when you look at when these guys retire, the game passes them by. The players, you don't relate with the guys on the field anymore. Well, that's not the case with Nick Saban. He's evolved with the players. They still love him and they still play hard for him. So he's still a great coach. He's still getting the job done. All right, this one I threw in because this could be a factor for him to want to leave. We heard from Chris Lowe, who said it on the Tailgate show, that Nick Saban doesn't like dealing with all the middlemen. You're talking about NIL and transfers. Saban's about the NIL if you come in and earn it, right? Will Reichert, the SEC kicker of the year, I could have went to the NFL last season instead, or after last season. Instead, came back and, he's got some NIL deals and he's earned them, right? And he said, hey, that's what's great about the NIL. You go out and you perform, and then, business and commerce wants you to be a part of what they're doing. It was never intended, or at least it wasn't supposed to be intended, for guys out of high school going to college and then, going around and, and trying to get the best deal. It wasn't supposed to be that way, but that's what it is, because there are new rules for this right now. And Saban's got to deal with a lot of these middlemen. I'm sure he doesn't like it. Hey, this is my uncle. He's going to handle this. Or, somebody's parent, all of a sudden now they think they're an agent. He cannot stand that stuff. It's part of the job that he doesn't like. The other thing is the transfer portal. We had Ryan Anderson on the Tailgate show, and he talked about the troubles that he had at the beginning of his career at Alabama. He told us a story about how he got sent home from the national championship game against Notre Dame, and how he had to make a decision in his life. And that decision was, am I staying or am I going? You're staying. And you couldn't just transfer back then. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions of his life. I mean, look at his career. Look at his life. He's been successful on and off the field. We all learn from our mistakes, especially when we have to own up to them. It would have been easy for any of us to say, hey, you know what? We're not doing this. And this is, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Instead, because of the transfer portal, when things don't go your way, you just roll out of town. You got to make a decision based on, hey, is it best for me to stay? Am I good enough to be here, or am I not? Right. Well, Ryan turned out to be one of the best defensive players that Alabama's had at his time at with the Crimson Tide for Nick Saban. Right. Some guys transfer out, but it almost feels like it's used by guys to hold the coaches and their families too, players and their families, hostage. Hey, my son's not playing. We're gonna transfer out of here. And that makes being a head coach like Nick Saban, it makes it tough, because what he's trying to do is get you ready to go out on the field and be successful. And a lot of times that means waiting your turn. The guys that have waited their turn have had success. The guys, some of them leave, and it's worked out for some and it hasn't worked out for others. But that's a thing that could maybe ultimately chase him out. And then, the more and more you turn around, the more and more this thing gets difficult. Are we going to have super leagues, or the players unionizing, and this is all stuff that is ultimately going to be bad for the game. We've got to see what happens there. A guy like Nick Saban may say, you know what, I'm done, but we're not there yet. So, ultimately, I think he sticks around. And the last thing is player development. I saw this report. Actually, Chad Anderson sent it to me from College Football Rep, and it's basically most active players in the NFL and where their recruiting classes have been ranked in the last decade, right? Well, at the top of the list, Alabama ranks second in recruiting, right? Overall, second. And they've got more players in the NFL than any other team, 57. Georgia's recruiting classes ranked third overall, and they had 49 second, right? So you're talking about the two most potent come to our school and learn and then go to the NFL coaches are the guys that learned under Nick Saban, right? That's him and Kirby Smart, who was his understudy for years. The bottom line is this, is it still works. Following the process, doing the things that you have to do, learning and being accountable for your actions pays off. And when that changes, maybe Alabama's head coach changes with it. But player development has been really the most amazing thing that we've seen with Nick Saban. It's not like Jimbo Fisher, who on this list had the number 9 recruiting class and only was able to develop 23 guys for the NFL, way, way lower, kind of at the bottom of this list. And, compared to where they were ranked to where they were developing. Nick Saban has this magic in his ability to teach players how to heighten their mental ability to play football, how to teach them to be physically ready. And how many former players have told us that it was tougher to practice than the games? You'd be tired at the end of practice and you'd be not tired at the end of games because Nick Saban pushes you so hard. And I'm sure that helps you when you get into the NFL to be successful. But it seems like every single NFL roster has Bama players on it, and a lot of them are amongst their best players. And that's in every position. It's not just, quarterbacks or running backs. For a long time, I feel like Bama was like defensive line, linebackers, and running backs. And then all of a sudden, Nick Saban gets there and they're developing every single position. And so when you do that, players are going to say, hey, where am I going to go to college? I'm serious about wanting to be in the NFL. I can go to the place where they've had the most success taking talent and then developing it into NFL stardom. How many millionaires has Nick Saban made of kids that play football, by holding them to a standard? It's a big deal to be a 5-star recruit. That's ultimately, like, as far as players coming out of high school, the top honor you can get, as far as scouting goes from all the publications. But that doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Nick Saban has the highest track record of taking those guys and then turning them into NFL football players and millionaires. And I think that is why ultimately you would want him to be there if you were a player. And I think that's what would keep him going as a coach, because you're still going to get the blue chip elite talent because you're still developing those guys into NFL stars. All right. So ultimately, I don't think he's going anywhere. I'm not buying into Nick Saban leaving at the end of the season, national championship or not. I think there's still a desire to play. I think he enjoys doing what he does. And I don't know what he would do if football wasn't there for him. I mean, we do see him doing a lot more media now. He's got a good personality on the Pat McAfee show. That's fun to watch. But would he be bored, or would it be fulfilling to him, even if he had a spot on, College Game Day or something, or Fox Sports? I mean, they'd certainly hire him, but is that something that he would do and want to do? Particularly when what he's accomplishing right now in college football makes him the greatest coach to ever walk a sideline. And all he's doing is just expanding that. And maybe he looks at it and goes, you know what, it would be nice to pass Bear Bryant one day. And he could possibly do that as well, but he's going to have to coach for a couple of more years. You guys tell me what you think in the comments section. Thanks for hanging out. A couple things I want to tell you about. First off, New Life Art, newlifeart.com. Bama Tailgate, you want that new picture, 4th and 31 that's coming out. You want to make the holidays. Maybe you're Jewish. You're enjoying Hanukkah right now. You want to get someone a Hanukkah gift. You're Christian and you got Christmas coming up. Maybe there's a birthday. Maybe you just do it for yourself. Use the promo code Bama Tailgate and you get a discount at checkout. So the last one was 25% off of your entire order. So take advantage of these and go to newlifeart.com right now to do so. The other thing I want to tell you about is my partner on the show, Mr. Chad Anderson, a proud Alabama grad. He is the guy that runs Modern Lending. Yeah, he owns his own mortgage company. He was in the corporate world and then bounced out, and he's doing it himself right now. He's helped over 10,000 families and businesses buy a home, including this studio right here in my house that I work through him to get done. But investment consultant, Airbnb expert, and much more. That's his actual number on the screen right there. At this Chad is real on social media. All right. And if you're not a part of what we're doing here, make sure you like and subscribe. Roll Tide, everybody.